Hello, everyone. I am Andrew, and this is Discovering the Truth. Now, if you tuned in to last week's episode, I started a series where I'm going through and talking about each and every one of the cryptid monsters that are sighted all over the entire world. Now, you may believe this or not, but I will tell you that these things do exist and they do live among us. But, anyways, today is episode 2 of the Cryptid Monsters, and we are talking about the infamous Michigan Dogman, or Dogman in general. Dogman is probably one of the most well known cryptid creatures, right up there with Bigfoot. So, as we did last time, we're going to talk a little bit about, what the internet says about it, the history, the folklore behind this, creature that supposedly doesn't exist, but there is thousands, no, hundreds of thousands of people that have claimed to have seen this creature, had encounters with them, heard strange things, and the list goes on forever. So let's talk a little bit about this, and then I'm going to give my own personal thoughts and opinions on this particular creature. So it says in the folklore, as they always put it, folklore, the Michigan Dogman was a creature allegedly witnessed in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan, United States. It was described as a 7-foot tall, blue eyed or amber eyed bipedal canine-like animal with a torso of a man and a fearsome howl that sounds like a human scream. The folklore claims the creature emerges on a reoccurring 10-year pattern linked to 7 years, or no, linked to years ending in the number 7, and that a loud clapping can drive it away. So, if you don't know, Michigan is very notorious for this particular cryptid creature, the Dogman. And I mean, you have sightings that go back all the way to 1887, and I'm not sure if there is or if there's documentation of a earlier encounter. I'm sure there is, but it's just very notorious for this creature. Now, being a 7-foot tall creature is what most people do describe the Dogman to being, is between 7 and 8 foot tall. I have never heard of someone saying it had blue eyes. Most of the times when I have heard stories of the Dogman, it's usually a yellowy white color, or of course the very terrifying ambered, red colored eyes. Now, it is, of course, it is a bipedal canine uh, cryptid creature. It does have a very big torso, much bigger upper body. Towards its legs, it's a lot thinner. I've never heard of the howl that sounds like a human scream. Every person that I have talked to, other videos I've watched here on YouTube and other platforms, they always describe the howl of this creature as being very, very loud and very powerful, that you can feel it reverberate through your chest. Like, it's just the sound frequency behind it is just unmeasured of how powerful it is, and the level of fear that this howl can, affect a human being. They say it's absolutely terrifying. Now, of course, these are just people's stories and encounters. This is what, the internet says about it, which, like I said in my last video, I don't believe half the stuff they put on these websites, simply because even if we have undisputable proof that these things exist, they're still going to deny it, and it's going to be considered folklore or a myth or, something of that nature. Excuse me. Unfortunately, but I know for a fact that these things do exist. I've had 2 encounters with 2 separate cryptid creatures in my life. One was a pale crawler, and the other one was a Dogman. At least that's what I think it was, because I don't know of any other creature that resembled what I seen besides a dogman, unless it's some other unknown, cryptid that no one's ever heard of. But anyways, let me continue here. So another, besides what they're saying here on this, what I've always heard is with the dogman is a bipedal canine with a very large head, ears that are, sometimes on the sides, sometimes on top. It's usually yellowy white or the red glowing eyes. Very, very defined, very muscular, very strong. They say that you can see the muscles even under the fur. The muscles are just ripping from this creature because it's so toned and very strong and powerful. Um, yeah, torso, very large torso, and basically its body kind of is very wide at the top with a very large canine head, and it narrows down. But its legs and lower body are also extremely, defined, very muscular. I've never heard of this reoccurring 10-year pattern with the Dogman before, and I strongly recommend that if you have an encounter with Dogman, I definitely would not start clapping at it to make it go away. You're probably going to make it angry, and yeah, well, we'll just leave it at just don't try that. Keep your eyes on it, move away slowly, and yeah, don't start clapping at it. That's an extremely bad idea. When they say don't believe everything you read on the internet, this is one of those things. Just don't do that. That would be the last thing that I would even think of doing, and I definitely would not do that. But anyways, let me continue. It says sightings have been reported in several locations throughout Michigan. Now, I do know that it's all over Michigan. If you don't know, Michigan is like a hot zone for the dogman. Now, of course, the dogmen do, appear all over the place, but it's definitely very prone there. And another thing I want to point out before I continue is it says the Michigan werewolf and the beast of Bray Road. First up, a dogman is not a werewolf. They are two separate entities. A werewolf is a man that turns into a werewolf creature. A dogman is not one that changes. They are a dogman. That is it. It is a canine that resembles a person, but let me take that back. A dogman is basically like a dog that walks on two legs but also can walk on all four. Very strong, very muscular, very animalistic. A werewolf is a human being that, like they say, you get bit or curse, and then every full moon you turn into this werewolf. There's a huge difference between these two cryptids that many people get mixed up. So it says this creature was unknown to most of the modern world until very late in the 20th century. It is said to have been stalking the area around Mainstream River since the days when Odo tribes lived there. So you have a lot 20th century. The whole story behind the Dogman is, you have a lot of accounts. You have 1850, 1967. Oh no, there's one here in 1937. Was attacked by 5 wild dogs, and said that one of the 5 walked on 2 legs. Now that's crazy. That's the first alleged encounter of the Michigan Dogman. And then of course you have the 1887 county when 2 lumberjacks saw a creature they described as having a man's body and a dog's head. See that's what I'm talking about. This one here is a well-known story. So can you imagine, being, a lumberjack out in the middle of the woods cutting down trees, and you see something coming through the woods that, has a body of a man. And when I say it's a body of a man, it's not actually a body of a man. It's just shaped like that. It's got arms that, hang down. It's got a chest, a neck, and this huge, you know, dog head. You know, very beast looking thing. But it walks on two legs, and it can also go on all four like a normal canine would. So I can only imagine the you know, especially back in this day and age where you didn't have the internet, you didn't have, you know, any of this stuff. So this had to be absolutely, you know, mind-boggling to them, but also extremely horrifying. And then of course this one here, this story, another part of Michigan was attacked. Yeah, so apparently somebody was attacked by five wild dogs, and said that one of the five dogs walked on two legs. Reports of similar creature also came from alleged counties in 1950, Mainstream and Cross Village 1967. Other sightings including Grand Haven. See, there's like so many. I mean, you have like 1993, most of these reports came from a man simply referred to as Ben. He claims to have seen a beast on three different occasions. One such sighting was in December 1993. He spotted a dogman in his parents' driveway in Lakewood Drive. The creature was standing behind the car on its hind legs, only running off when Ben started screaming. Another account was from someone else in 1994 in the same area. This report was of a run-in which the reporter hit a large animal with his car, thinking it to be a deer. There was no corpse to be found, instead only gray fur within the grill of the car. And I mean, I'm not going to read all this, but there's a lot. So if you ever wanted to, you know, dive into this more so of the whole story of the Michigan Dogman, there's a lot to read. It's actually very interesting. Of course, it'll tie into the Beast of Bray Road, which that'll be a totally different video, because I think that particular story and all the stuff tied into it is very, very worthy of its own video. But anyways, now I know that a lot of people are very skeptical when it comes to these creatures. I mean, there's a lot to be skeptical about. But the Dogman is a creature that has, like, you know, have had sightings all over the entire world. And of course, there's a lot in the United States, and of course, there's a lot in Michigan. But the Dogman is a very terrifying and horrifying creature that so many people have had encounters. There have also been a lot of stories of people actually, you know, being taken out by these creatures. Now, I'm not going to discuss all of that on here, but if you do your research, there is a lot of cases like that, and it kind of makes me wonder. If you look at my first video on this series where I talked about pale crawlers and so many people that disappear, who's to say that these dogmen are not in our national parks? Who's to say these dogmen are not in our woods where people love to go hunting, hiking, camping, and they disappear? Who's to say that these creatures are not taking these people and taking them, you know, one, deep, deep into the woods where no man, you know, wants to even try to venture off into? Or my theory is that these things, the reason they are so elusive is because they have a means of traveling in between the veil. The veil is basically a split between our world and another world, kind of like Stranger Things, the Upside Down. It's the same world except altered in so many different ways. And who's to say these people that go out and they're camping, you know, they're very well trained, you know, people that have been doing this for years. You have, you know, survivalists, you have hunting experts, you know, all these people, and they just vanish under mysterious, you know, circumstances and are never found ever again. And, you know, there's been a lot of people that have come up missing, saying that things were luring them into the woods, you know, or they saw very strange creatures. You know, the list goes on forever. And to me personally, with my encounter with the Dogman is I just heard something. I went to investigate it, and when I got to looking, I didn't see anything, and then I did. And at first, I thought I was looking at a large cat. I thought there was like a mountain lion in my backyard in my woods. But when I got to looking and I decided that I was going to get a little closer to try to shine more light on it, because this thing was, darker than the actual night outside. It was like it was darker than you could even think it could be. But when I watched this thing stand up is when the fear, you know, coursed through my body to where I just ran. And I legitimately did run. But anyways, that's a story for another time. But the Michigan Dogman and the Beast of Bray Road and all the other, things that tie into this is fascinating, but also absolutely horrifying. That there could be a large canine-like creature roaming around even in our neighborhoods, in our woods. They could be on, simple walking trails that are not, out in the middle of nowhere. And of course, the real danger is when people go out in these national parks and they're going camping with their families, hiking or hunting, whatever the case may be is, and these things are there. People have had plenty of countless encounters, police officers, search and rescue teams, park rangers. So many people have seen these creatures, but yet we're told they don't exist. Oh, you're misidentifying it. It was a coyote, or it was just a big cat, or it was a wild boar. It was a deer. And they always make it out like these people are just crazy, or they're misidentifying. And that's not the case. And so many people are so afraid to speak up, especially like, these wildlife experts and these people, park rangers and stuff that, work in these national parks are afraid to speak up, or they know what these things are and they're being told if you speak about it, well, you'll simply disappear, or you'll be let go, and then you'll be shunned as you are crazy and that you need to be on medication, and whatever the case may be is. And that's what happens. And then, of course, there's us, everyday average Joes, that have had an encounter with something, and you sit and you keep that bottled in for years, and you think, oh man, maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe I did misidentify it. Maybe I'm just crazy. And I just want to tell everybody, you're not. These things exist. They don't just exist in Hollywood movies. They don't just exist in video games and TV shows. These things are lurking around us each and every day. And I'm telling you, there's a much bigger picture behind all of this. The reason that I think that Bigfoot, Dogman, pale crawlers, Mothman, all these other very well-known cryptid creatures are being, made out to being, jokes. I mean, think about Bigfoot. Bigfoot was a huge thing and still is, but instead of them taking it seriously, they started making movies, TV shows. I mean, look at the Slim Jim commercials. There's Bigfoot, They try to make it out like it's just funny. It's a joke. And that's what they do to try to make it out like that these things do not exist. That's just made up. It's fairy tales. And there are, TV shows, and even these TV shows. I mean, you may watch like, the Bigfoot shows and enjoy them, but I'm telling you, I believe in my heart that they're just mockeries. They're just mocking the people for watching it and believing in that, and they think that stuff is real. That stuff is all Hollywood magic. It's just made up. It's made you to think that this is what happens and this is what they are. But in reality, they're not. These are living, breathing creatures, and they live all around us, and they hide. And the reason they cannot be found, why they cannot be hunted, is one, they're smart. Two, they have a means of traveling in and out of the veil. That's why when you find footprints of these creatures, or people allegedly have made moldings and castings of these footprints, and then they simply just end. There's been people that have had them walk right into like a tree or a rock facing, and then they're just gone. Where are they going? My personal opinion, they're going into the veil. That is their means of hiding, but that's also their means of getting around way faster. If you look up Dogman stories, there's been countless stories where people said the Dogman came after them and then vanished and then ended up way in front of them. Now, I get that Dogman and other creatures like this are supernatural. And I don't mean supernatural like, they're not a living, breathing creature, but they are a supernatural being. Means that they have unbelievable speed, strength, and abilities, but also if they can go into this portal, let's just say a portal or the veil, whatever you want to say, and they decide this person's getting away, so I'm going to go through here and be able to move faster in my world than theirs, and then I can end up 20 feet in front of them or 100 feet in front of them. And there's been multiple people that said that thing was chasing after them, and then within a blink of an eye, is gone. So how can something that is so large and, so powerful, that's tearing through the brush, breaking branches, all this other stuff, and then just total silence, gone with a blink of an eye? That's not normal. And then people want to say that, oh, it's because they're spiritual. They're demons. No, they're not. First up, a demon or anything like that is not going to take the form of something it would consider lesser of a being than itself. A demon is a fallen angel. Means it's an angelic being. It wouldn't need to disguise itself as something like that. Nor would it, because it thinks itself as being far greater. And it being a spiritual creature doesn't really make any sense either, because countless people have encountered these creatures and said they could see steam coming out of their nose, out of their mouth, as if they were breathing. And with my encounter that I had with Dogman, I could hear it breathing. So if it was a spiritual being or creature, why would it be, necessary for it to breathe? Why would it have to make that sounds? People have claimed that they've heard this creature like panting like an actual dog. And it's not just with Dogman, but it's other creatures as well. When I had my encounter with a pale crawler, I could see this thing breathing. I could see its chest, going in and out as if it was breathing in oxygen. So I can't really see a spiritual type creature finding the need to breathe, to try to prove something to me. That's the last thing I'm thinking about at that moment. So it doesn't really make much sense to me. And please, if any of you guys have, your personal, thoughts on any of this, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Because I'd like to get some feedback on all of these videos, because I'm curious what other people think about what these things are, where they come from, and do you believe they actually exist? Now, me personally, I know people that have had encounters. I've talked to a couple of people. In my own personal encounters I had myself, I know that these things do exist. Do I know where they come from? No. Do I know what they are? No. I'm only giving my own personal thoughts and opinions on what I think these things are and where they're coming from. But I don't have all the answers. That is why my channel is called Discovering the Truth. I am trying to do everything in my power, everything that I can, to try to discover the truth of what these things are, where they come from. Are they hostile? Are they friendly? Are they here for some other or some unknown purpose? And I do believe these things are some type of supernatural creature. Means that I don't think these things are trying to just attack people for no reason, but I do believe that they thrive and enjoy putting the fear in people, like they that energy. And I know people are like, oh, they eat the energy because they're spiritual. No, Energy is a very powerful thing. If you take someone that's very very negative and put him in a room, and he starts being negative around all these other people, that negative energy does spread. It's like a plague. It will start spreading to everybody in there, to the point, just like if somebody's angry or frustrated, it spreads to people. And I believe that fear is a very powerful thing. I don't know if you know this, but if you ever watched Monsters Inc., Monsters Inc., the monsters would go, into kids' bedrooms and scare the crap out of them, and then they would take the canister of their screams, which was their fear, and fill it up into those canisters, and they used that to power their cities. Now, I'm not saying that the Dogman is, filling up canisters to power up his house at home, but what I'm saying is, though, is they put stuff right in front of your face, but also the amount of energy that fear probably puts off that gives this creature some type of satisfaction or satisfaction. I'm not really sure. It's just a thought. I'm just trying to shoot everything I know out there. But I find it weird that so many people, including myself, that had these encounters, but it didn't come at me like it was trying to attack me. It more wanted to say, hey, I'm right here. You're not going to do anything about it, but I'm going to scare the crap out of you. And I'm going to scare the crap out of you. Even knowing we only met this one time, you're going to think about this. And every time you're outside alone, or you're in the dark, or you're going camping or hiking, you're going to remember our encounter. And that fear and that thought of running into that thing is always going to be there. It's going to live with you for the rest of your life. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but it's just another thought. So, with all that being said, I hope that you guys are enjoying this series. I'm sorry I'm a little all over the place because I'm still learning from this. I'm still, trying to be a better content creator, so forgive me for all of that. But I do want to say, for everyone that has subscribed and has watched my videos, I just want to say that I am eternally grateful. And I'm so excited about, growing my channel. I know it's growing slowly. But hey, if you're new here, it's completely free. And if you want to help a fellow North Carolinian and a new content creator that is talking about all types of cryptid type monsters, paranormal, ghosts, and all kinds of random things, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you do have your own personal encounter, or something maybe you'd like to just talk about, giving me your thoughts on, what you think these things are. There's a link in my YouTube description that is linked to my TikTok. You can personally message me on there. I don't have an email set up yet because I only have one email at the moment, and I have to use it for work and things. So until I can get another email established, you can feel free to follow me on TikTok, or you don't even have to do that. You can just go on and you can message me, and I will respond back to you if you're interested in coming on the show. You don't have to come on live. You can just tell me your story, and then I can reiterate what you're telling me. But that's completely up to you. But I hope that you guys did enjoy the video, and this really does excite me, talking about all of these cryptid creatures. And I don't know, there's a lot of images, there's a lot of pictures out there. I'm sure that 99% of these are all, AI or fake, but I will tell you this. I think that AI was made and designed not just for our entertainment. I think it was made and designed to try to deceive us and to also make us think that everything that we are seeing, all these pictures or videos that come out of, paranormal stuff or Bigfoot, Dogman, all these cryptids, UFOs, I think all of it is by design. I think they came out with this AI stuff and made it widely available to the general public, so that then when you see something like this in the woods in a video, or something like this, well, I don't know what that was. Something like this, or any of these other images of, I did not mean to save that. This, your immediate thought is going to be, oh, that's just AI. Or, oh, that's just a guy in a suit. And tell me I'm wrong, because that's immediately what people, go to. Whenever, you show them something. Now, of course, a lot of these are very, very fake. But I'm saying that the potential of actual videos and actual photos of these creatures are immediately going to be deemed AI, fake, something of that nature. So don't let that discourage you, because a lot of these things that you do see, a lot of pictures, videos are very, very real. But take it with a grain of salt, because a lot of it is fake. I mean, you got to think people do make fake stuff out there, and some of those videos will be very, very convincing and they'll go viral, but a lot of it is not real. So with all that being said, I don't mean to ramble. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Next week I will be doing episode 3. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, because there's so many to pick from. But I really wanted to do Pale Crawler and Dogman first, because those are the two encounters that I personally had, myself. So I guess they're a little bit closer to me than other ones, because I've never encountered Bigfoot or Mothman or, well, I'm not even going to discuss all the cryptids that are out there, but there's so many. Just like the Beast of Bray Road, that's a very, very infamous creature, and I mean, there are people that wrote books on it. The list goes on forever. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Andrew, and this is Discovering the Truth. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I greatly appreciate all the support. And just hang in there. I'm getting better at this, and my channel's growing more, and the more that I can grow this channel, the better. So I just want to say again, thank you for all the support. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And just remember, if you decide to go camping, if you decide to go on a walking trail, or even out in your backyard, if you live in a wooded area, in some places it doesn't even need to be a wooded area, it could be a suburb. Keep your head on a swivel. If you hear something strange, don't just ignore it. But don't go investigating, especially not by yourself, because these things do exist. And you need to be careful. Keep your head on a swivel, and be smart, and be safe. I am Andrew. I'm out.